That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us.
Something may not sound right if it feels off, strange, or inconsistent with what you expect or know to be true.
Let me pause you there. That's our whole podcast. Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, podcast about talking. We're your hosts. I'm Peter Billman.
I'm Cecil Davis.
And we're just trying to have a conversation without Googling it, going on Yahoo, if you still use Yahoo, fact-checking. We're just talking about what we know.
Do you still have your MindSpring account?
No, I never had a MindSpring account.
You didn't? Okay.
But I still have my triad.rr.com, my Roadrunner email.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But, one of my favorite things to say is welcome to the show. So, Giorgio, our official product tester, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
So this week is an interesting conversation. We're just going to talk about things that don't sound right.
Right.
There's a lot of things that don't sound right.
Right.
And there's different ways of thinking about the phrase. So, Giorgio, you thought about this. You've pondered this in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you even got some help as you pondered this.
But before you delve into that.
Delve.
Delve into that. So the thing about talking like this, tell me what you like about this, because I think this actually plays into something that you think about a lot, and that is navigating difference. And that navigating difference comes from talking.
Yes. Actually, more from listening. But talking and listening is a really important part of what it means to be a human, and what it means to read and see things, to speak into things. I usually say when humans are talking, usually with like great differences, that proximity brings clarity, and so. So yeah, I think that's a really important thing. C.S. Lewis says nobody ever feels less confident about their argument after they won one, until after they won one.
Huh.
Because you're like, oh, I saw the holes in it because I was actually communicating with somebody else about it. Though I won, I still have some doubts about certain aspects of it, some nuance, that kind of thing. So yes, navigating difference, especially in our day and age, is why I love this podcast so much, is countercultural and beautiful, and I think necessary for us. So love this. Love this.
Do you think that our communication ability of the modern era, with emails or just even voicemails, being able to go back and forth so quick, do you think that has any advantage over prior eras where communication was much slower if you were not in person? For instance, someone debating over writing a letter, and that letter would take weeks, if not months, to get to each other. This happened a lot.
Yeah, I think for issues of kind of the deepest and most significant issues, it's probably hurt. But for so many other things, emergencies and really sharing the beauty of some moment, those are really great things. I mean, there's no way I've been off Facebook for a good long while now, but the amount of people I could keep up with that I went to high school with that I would have never been able to do that with, and celebrate the good things that are happening in their life and mourn with them when their bad things are happening in their life. That's a real gift. At the same time, we all know the kind of travesty of it. The thought that would it would take to write a letter and the patience it would create for you have to wait and then wait for a return.
Right.
That's a beautifully human thing in an instant gratification world. So yeah, we should miss that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called The Analog Revolution that is about slowing down. Talks about like millennials playing chess at a Starbucks physically instead of online with each other, and they're like, "This is the most radical thing ever." And I'm like, "That's a great human instinct."
It's funny you said that because I was just thinking when you were talking about writing letters. Do you remember that people used to play chess like that?
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
They would have their chessboard set up at their houses, and then they would They would mail
the next
move, and then so you had to wait.
Oh my gracious!
Until your mail came.
Yeah, but there's something beautifully human about that.
Oh yeah,
you're not
that's
actually
great.
in control of stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
but can you imagine playing chess like that, where you're waiting and it comes, and then you kind of look at it and you write the letter and you mail it back?
And now, if you do online, I play chess with my son sometimes back and forth, and it's like a 10-minute game.
Right.
And if you run out of time, you lose. So you have to move quickly.
Oh, all right.
Each person gets 10 minutes, and it's so we play regular chess sometimes too. But, regular chess.
So, anyways, the podcast prompted you to do something.
Yeah. So communication is changing rapidly, and in the last really couple of months, it's changed significantly rapidly. And so I took it upon myself. I was super curious, and I didn't know what I would ask about to do this chat stuff, this AI creation stuff. You know me well enough to know I don't remember any of the names or any of that kind of stuff. So I went into I signed up for the free trial or whatever it is, the basic trial for AI that would create something. And I was super curious about what it would come up with. So I only did 3 things. One, I was just curious. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a pastor, so I was preaching on a really famous passage. I was like, oh, what am I going? There's nothing I can say new about this. So I typed that in, and it spat out a really lame sermon. I asked it a theological question, and realized if I adjusted the way I asked the question, it got better and better and better. But then what I did was I said, what does it mean when you use the phrase, that don't sound right? And so I'm ready to read it.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, I would never have thought that.
I didn't think to do that either.
So
this is why we have listeners, man.
Exactly.
Come up with this kind of stuff.
So here's the answer. It comes with an intro, and then 4 points, and then an outro, if you will.
All right.
Something may not sound right if it feels off, strange, or inconsistent with what you expect or know to be true.
Let me pause you there. That's our whole podcast.
That's the premise of everything we do every week.
I might even change the intro to the podcast.
Yeah. So, and it says, this could be due to a variety of factors, such as, 1, the tone or pitch of a person's voice. If the tone or pitch of someone's voice is unusual or different from what you are accustomed to, it may not sound right.
So this makes me wonder if we really should ever change the way we record our podcast.
What do you mean?
Well, we always, the voice quality, the sound quality of our podcast is, it's never going to be on it's public radio, right? And it changes a little every time. And you might have to slow down your weekly commute to hear our voices because of something going on in the background.
Because I'm mumbling.
There's just something about our podcast that, from a hearing standpoint, don't sound right.
Right.
What if we were to fix that? I think we'd lose something.
Yeah.
All right, number 2.
Number two is the context of the situation. If something is said or done that seems out of place or inappropriate for the context of the situation, it may not sound right.
Like taking pictures at the post office. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Like doing a podcast on a card table.
Oh, yeah, right. This is a card table. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, this is a wonderful studio.
But it's the annex.
This is the annex.
This is just the annex.
The annex. Yeah. All right. Number 3, the words or grammar used. If the words or grammar used in a sentence are incorrect or do not make sense, it may not sound right.
So this is how I pick up if an email's fake or not.
How so?
If it's everything else looks really pretty put together, but it's got grammatical mistakes in it, that's one of the ways I can pick up like a fish email.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say this also is embodied in the very title of your podcast.
That's right.
That don't sound right is not proper grammar.
It's not good grammar.
But it sounds right to me. But you're embodying 1 and 3 already. The tone, the pitch, the grammar used. Your message is in the very structure of it.
So the grammatically correct would be that does not sound right.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or that doesn't sound right.
You can say that doesn't.
Can't
write it in a formal paper.
That don't sound right.
It's funny, just for the listeners, when we first... Cecil came up with the name. You came up with the name.
Did it?
You did. Because when you said it, I literally thought to myself, well, maybe it should be that doesn't sound right. Because I don't talk that way.
But Cecil does.
Cecil talked, but I really thought, well, maybe, really, we're going to say that don't sound right?
That don't sound right.
But this is it. I'm all in.
It's on my T-shirt.
It's on my pint glass. It's on my T-shirt. It's on my bumper sticker, which you can find on the That Don't Sound Right merchandise if you're looking for Mother's Day gifts.
Okay, so the last 2 things are the things that I think were most connected to what you're doing, and so the fourth one is your intuition. Sometimes, even if you can't quite put your finger on what's wrong, your gut feeling or intuition may tell you that something doesn't sound right. And to me, this is quintessential.
The exception to that is if you're running the country mile on April 1st, everything is fine.
Yeah, no,
with your brother.
There was a lot that intuition should have told me was wrong that day, but my love of fame and fortune took me out of my game.
Forgot that it was April 1st.
And forgot that it was April 1st. And I've almost talked myself back into getting, because I was talking to him today and I said, wouldn't it be great if the race actually started awarding that award? Mm-hmm. And he said, I could almost get you again if you It's like, so read that again.
Okay, your intuition. That's the other thing that makes something not sound right.
Your intuition has to be on.
Even if you can't quite put your finger on what's wrong, your gut feeling or intuition may tell you that something doesn't sound right.
I've done that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I knew you were going to ask me for an example off the top of my head.
That's my job.
Yeah, I know.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I do, right?
I know I've done that before where it's just something, I can't use that example.
Well, I mean, one of the words of wisdom is if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Right.
If it's too good to be true, it probably don't sound right.
So, the other day I was getting my tires, going back to the auto repair.
Let's go jump back into the auto repair series.
Yeah. So they said my tires were chunking.
Chunking.
Do you know what chunking is?
I've heard of chunking, yes.
Do you know how it occurs?
Usually chunking occurs with a gross misalignment and your tires are getting hot and pieces of the tire are flying off the blocks of the tread.
Yeah, blocks of the tire are coming, chunks are coming out. It's chunking. But when does that most commonly occur, would you think? With a minivan that's driven around the city, or maybe a 4x4 that's driven on the gravel road?
There's not enough chunks on a minivan tire to chunk.
Right. So they said my tires were chunky, and I was like,
oh, man.
My intuition
Good.
tells me these tires are not chunking, considering that it's driven on paved roads at regular speeds.
Was it the alignment store telling you they were chunking, or was it the tire store? And what were they saying you need to do?
Change the tires. But now the tires did need to be changed because I knew the treads were getting low.
Okay.
But I think we were getting ready to get an argument about whether they were up to the mileage or not.
Yeah.
I was like, if you want to tell me the tread's not there, that's fine. But don't tell me they're chunking.
Don't tell me.
So, anyways, I like that.
Okay, so it closes out with something I think is amazing. This is the part why I wanted to read it to you guys. In any case, if something doesn't sound right, it's important to listen carefully and pay attention to your instincts to determine if further investigation or clarification is necessary.
So where this happened to me is with Pressure, the song Pressure.
By who sings that?
Which is a David Bowie song.
False.
Why? Is that false? It is a David Bowie song.
It's Freddie Mercury.
Right. So, I'm driving down the road, friend, song comes on, I was like, oh, David Bowie. And he said, no, Freddie Mercury.
That's right.
So we argued, and me and this guy can argue pretty well with each other. But it turns out that both of them sang that song
At the
same time.
they were both recording. They recorded it together.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So that goes back.
Which I didn't know. I always thought it was a Freddie Mercury and Queen song because of the lawsuit.
Right, with Vanilla Ice.
Because we all know it's a Vanilla Ice song.
That's right.
Well, what was that last thing again? So if
it's important to listen carefully,
right,
and pay attention to your instincts to determine if further investigation or clarification is necessary.
So I should have listened to him, what he was saying, because he was convinced it was Freddie Mercury.
Right.
And I was convinced that it was
and he probably should have listened to you.
Well, yeah, and we eventually did. We both decided that we were both right.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, unfortunately, this was prior to the podcast.
Did you do some further investigation?
We did some further investigation.
That's fine. You had to break the tie.
We had to break the tie.
Eventually have to break the tie.
Yeah, because I didn't know how. Either going to a record store.
You could have written a letter to the Queen fan club.
It's a good song.
It makes me want to change our tag.
What's that?
To keep talking, keep listening, and stay curious.
Say it again.
Keep talking, keep listening, and stay curious.
Man.
Because we're saying keep talking, stay curious. Now, I guess curiosity is kind of covers listening.
I like that. What made you do that? Just out of curiosity?
Yeah, well, I was also trying to try out this stuff. Like, I was like, this is weird and wonderful or awful. I don't know what it is.
I use AI pretty weekly now. Like, if I have to write an email and I'm not quite sure how to frame it, I'll get it started with that, and then I'll go back and personalize it.
Does it do any distribution of drugs happen through AI?
Not yet. I'm sure people are creating AI chatbots for you to, interact with like a chain store.
Would you let me know when that happens?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's. Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, there's AI. Like my son was telling me that that there's a Spotify AI DJ.
I've used it.
Yeah.
Oh, really? What does it do?
It basically listens to it looks at your listening history and comes up with a little bit better playlists than kind of the custom mixes that show up in your homepage. And it does it live, and what it does, it'll pulls it. It says, "I'm going to try pulling some other songs in that I think you might like."
It's a AI DJ.
Yeah,
nice.
So it'll play a set, and then it'll say, "Okay, you've been listening to this. We're going to play a bunch of this. You haven't listened to this in a while. I'm going to play a bunch of that." And they just, it'll do 5 or 6 songs, and then it'll switch it up. And if you don't like what it's playing,
you just go forward, and it knows that you don't like that.
Start teaching
genres.
Yeah, because that's kind of what happens in my newsfeed sometimes. I'll click on something and then I'll get 6 articles that way.
Right.
Like for a long time, I think my feed thought I was a nurse because I clicked on something about nursing in the newsfeed, and then I got like 20 articles about nursing. So.
If I read, I have a pretty vast newsfeed, left, right, all over, and if I read 2 articles in a row from one perspective, then the next 6 are from that perspective. I literally just slide through. Even if I want to read the next article, I'll just slide through to try to redo the algorithm. Yeah. I didn't know about that Spotify thing.
Yeah, it's great.
So my youngest daughter listens to my Spotify though, so it's going to throw off my AI DJ.
Yes, you're going to be listening to a lot of Taylor Swift.
I also use AI to write the podcast episode descriptions each week.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of making fun of the word delve that you used there, because that's not your word, is it?
I can pull a delve out every now and then.
Yeah, but it pulls out a delve every time. It's either delve or dive.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Now, I will say that you wrote the description to episode Missed It by a Mile, Part 1. You wrote that one.
Yeah, that was so personal to me.
And I could tell.
Yeah.
I could tell it was not AI, and it was fantastic.
It's in my vernacular.
I want Cecil intelligence writing these right now.
Well, I do think that there's beauty in it, and just like most things, we have to figure out how to use this technology well, and never forget that we're trying to communicate with other human beings as we do it. Even if we have some computer assistance to it, we just you're talking to people.
Yeah. Well, you know, they supposedly AI passed the medical exam.
Oh, no, I didn't hear this.
Yeah. That one of these things passed it. They fed the questions into it and it passed the medical exam.
Totally imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, it's still not passing the driving exam.
Not yet.
But y'all got driverless trucks.
Oh, not in service yet. We're still,
Are y'all close?
they're still testing them.
I guess that's
I did sit in on a company that has come up. So the way you teach an AI, most of the way you teach an AI is you get it on the road with the safety driver.
Really?
Yeah, that's how you teach an AI.
That's how you teach a human too.
Good.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing the AI thing and asking that question. I wouldn't have thought to ask that question.
No, neither would I.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I have a question I want to ask AI that I'm scared to do it. It's like a question about faith. I want to type it in and see what comes back. But I'm not scared of the answer.
Okay.
I don't know if AI should be asked those kind of questions.
All right.
So I'm still on the fence.
Well, if it's wrong, then you teach it.
Yeah, you could.
You could teach it.
I had it write. I had it write an acrostic. My youngest daughter wanted me to write an acrostic with her name.
Yeah.
And it wrote a beautiful. Using each letter of her name, and it came up with the adverb, and it was really nice.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was her idea.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
There's just so many things to do.
Yeah.
So many different ways to do it.
Like I said, I know people that have trouble writing office cards, like happy birthday cards and sympathy cards. They use it for
There you go.
to kind of just kickstart them.
Yeah.
Because it's hard when somebody brings the manila folder around to your desk with the card hidden and says, "Oh, it's so and so's birthday," and you're like. And I've known people have gotten it wrong before too, where they've signed sympathy cards thinking it was a birthday card. And
the AI can't help you.
AI can't help with that, but I have seen that happen.
Oh man,
yeah, that's unfortunate. So it don't sound right, but you've come to the end of another episode.
Hey, before we close, we want to thank everyone for listening. If this is your first time and enjoyed the conversation, would you consider hitting the subscribe button on the platform that you use? On the Apple Podcast, just a little check mark. And for those of you who have been longtime listeners, again, we want to thank you for hanging in there and being with us and being part of the conversation. Would you also consider rating us or leaving us a review?
That Don't Sound Right is a production of TDSR Podcast in conjunction with Camel City Studios. I am one of your hosts, Cecil, and your chief sound engineer. Peter does all of our web design, and he is the other host. Emily does our graphic design. Did you mention about buying stuff?
I did. Remember in the middle of the podcast we were talking about.
Giorgio is our first merchandise tester. Brent is our brand ambassador. And as always, listener number one is Scott. So until next week, keep talking.
And stay curious.